I think everybody's here. And I see, Sarah, you've hit record. Okay, well, welcome everyone to our Kindness Builds Bridges to Effective Communication talk. This will be an opportunity for three people with different experiences to share with you around a same common lens of compassion and kindness. And this is being videotaped, but know that at the end during the question and answer, we could turn that off and have a little bit more of an informal exchange if you would like. We would also like for everyone to just hold your questions if possible until the end. And we have until 7:30, so we'll see if we can wrap it up a few minutes early so that we can have some time to do that. First, I would like to introduce us, and I am going to share my PowerPoint. Please don't feel like this is going to be too lecture-like or instructional just because I have a PowerPoint. It's the way I take something that I'm talking about seriously, in that I can organize my thoughts so I don't just say a lot of things off the cuff, but I can really think about things that I want to share and things that we all want to anchor to and build from. So Sarah Greenlee is one of our presenters here, and she will speak after me. She just waved. And she is the special education department chair. She's an instructional mentor, and she is at Gentry Middle School in Columbia Public Schools. Is that correct, Sarah? I can see you, okay. And she started kindness clubs in 20, I can't quite see that because of there. 2016. And she has been working with Children's Grove and Como Septa to start kindness clubs in all Columbia Public Schools. Dr. Aime Van Morlan is a pediatric endocrinologist. She is the president of Septa, and that is the special education PTA. She's a mother of two children, a senior and a seventh grader, and her seventh grader has a disability. I am Melissa Stormont. I'm a professor of special education. I'm a researcher who has been doing research for about 25 years in supporting children, supporting families, and really working on most research around the topic of building positive relationships and positive environments to support kids. I'm the co-director of the Boone County Early Childhood Coalition. I started out as a preschool teacher, and I've come back to my roots as someone who works with very young children with social emotional needs. I am the mother of 5, and we have 3 with special needs and 1 with a disability. And Sarah's also a mom. She has 2 children, and if she wants to talk a little bit more about that, I'm sure she will. So our overview is that we will be talking about compassion and communication with families. Sarah will bring in some examples from middle school related to kindness, especially. She started kindness clubs, and it's worth coming to this presentation just to hear her talking about kindness clubs and what she's tried to do in Columbia Public Schools. It's very just fascinating. And then Dr. Aime will be presenting a parent perspective and really just discussing all of our main points and how they connect to her experience as a mother of a child with a disability, and the importance of kindness and compassion and communication, and that it can make all the difference in the world related to how you feel, not only about your child and their experience in school, but how that impacts your life in your entire world knowing that your child's needs are being met and that they're with somebody who really cares about them the way that you do. So when we think about having compassionate conversations with families, I always talk to teachers. I train teachers who are going to be special education teachers, and I work with doctoral students. I train general educators around topics of special education, and I always start with kindness and community building and how important it is to revisit simple practices and beliefs in the way that we interact with people. And if we don't do certain things well or certain things right, then it really serves as a detriment to anything else we try and do. We can't move forward with families if we don't have compassionate communication with them. That is how we build trust. And so just opening the door to that through being kind is the first thing that we always need to do. And teachers need to do that. Community members need to do that. Everybody who works with families needs to remember that. And as three mothers, we couldn't echo that more. It's also important to remember that although teachers really influence a child's day, they have them from 9 to 4 or 8 to 3, we have them for a significant amount of time. But really the way we, as a society, as a community, and as a school, the way we show children we care is through the way that we interact with and care about their families. That's where it really matters. And those are the individuals that will be with them hopefully for a long, long time. And that's how we can get them more ready and their families more ready for the marathon of what it's like to have and support individuals with disabilities, and also all children, and then children with social emotional needs as well. So some simple practical things that we can do when we're fostering partnerships with families and just relationships from one person to another is to really think about, and I don't mean like in a scientific way where you greet somebody and check it off your list, but I mean just pausing. We all get very rushed. We're all very hurried. And just pausing and taking a breath and giving someone our full self, our present self, and also just kindness. And a lot of times that means that we're not looking at our phone, we're not looking at our computer, we're looking at them. And the way we communicate with little children by getting down to their height and really stopping what we're doing is the same thing that we do with families when we kind of shut off all of our other things and really have a positive start to a communication by just showing them that they care. We're not going to be on that we care. We're not going to be on our phone and things like that. Another way is to really plan positive communication. And so some simple strategies that teachers could use and professionals who work with families is to just keep communication logs and to plan to specifically have positive interactions with families by just spending time with people and really thinking about wanting to take a minute and say something kind about their child, about something new that you've noticed. Every person that has been a very successful person does this type of thing. They just find these opportunities. And then they don't just have the idea, they follow through on it. And for teachers, keeping these logs is something very critical because sometimes families receive 5 communications, negative, 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 no positive communication. And that just has to change. We should really be communicating 3 to 4 times as many positive things as something negative. And even if we say something rather neutral as a professional, I never understood the way that you feel like your heart is just in your throat as when somebody is sharing something that's concerning about your child. Um, and every time I had that, I would think, I have to try and teach teachers about this. I have to use this experience of somebody walking with me and sharing that my child didn't get into a gifted program, or walking with me and talking about yet another problem that my son had. And, you know, just how it made me feel. And it's so important to plan for those positive moments with people. And then teaching children to be kind to each other. A positive peer reporting is a research-based strategy, and it is basically, it's been termed by some researchers as tootling. So teaching children, instead of tattling on each other, to tootle on each other and to report someone else for an act of kindness or something that they've done. It highlights that they're attending to kindness, and then it also creates an opportunity for some children who maybe are changing their behavior, but their peers don't always see it, to pay attention. And then being trustworthy is so important. Communicating that the best interests of your child are your focus too, as a teacher, as a professional, showing compassion in what you do through having priorities and goals, and also in how you communicate it, how you communicate with them. We're going to have lots more examples related to that. And keeping information confidential is super important. We can also think about how we can get outside the box, how we can overcome barriers, whether they're barriers to participating together, to a particular community opportunity, to participating in schools and things like that, and just developing partnerships to work around different kinds of things. And so with that, I'm going to stop my share and turn it over to Sarah, who will take us through some of her wonderful work here in Columbia Public Schools.
Are you able to see this, my shared screen? Okay, great. So I wanted to just start by talking about the importance of inclusive opportunities for all students. And I'm lucky enough to get to work in a middle school. So I have children during that those really formative years, that really important time where they're discovering the world around them, their place in it. And they're just gaining all sorts of background knowledge that they're going to end up independent out in the world with, and we want to set them up for success. And the importance of inclusion is something that should be emphasized in all of our schools. Working in a middle school, it becomes really apparent how important that age group is, and is clearly my focus, working with grades 6th, 7th, and 8th. And I know the Children's Grove has done a lot of work with elementary age children as well. So I'll talk a little bit more about the kindness clubs that Dr. Stormont mentioned and how we're pushing those out with help of our community partners for children in both elementary and middle school. But I wanted to talk a little bit about inclusion. I wanted to make sure that everyone kind of understands what that inclusive environment is, and then that it's not happenstance. There's a lot of planning, preparation, and collaboration involved in creating an environment that is inclusive and where everyone is included and where we have the opportunity to learn from one another. So in working in special education, inclusion is something that's just constantly on our minds. When I say inclusion, what I mean is general education, special education, all students working together and being able to learn from one another. And so there are some ways in which we do that are supported by the district that I work in. And as we're working with students and with families and determining the best placement for kids to learn in during their school day, we work as a team. Students have in special education have an IEP, which is their own individualized education plan. And so we partner with parents and we all work together to determine the best place for each student's learning. And our goal is always to make sure that our students are learning in what we call their least restrictive environment. And that means that we're maximizing the amount of time that those students learn with their general education peers. Hence that inclusion piece, right? We want to let them have the opportunity to be out with all other students learning in the classroom. So one way that we do that at my school is through our co-teaching service delivery model. We have special education and general education teachers teaching a class together, in which both special education and general education students are in the class. The special education teacher and the general education teacher both consider every student in the class their students, and everybody helps everybody, because first and foremost, all students are general education students. Some just have greater needs than others that we need to get creative in solving. So that is one way throughout the school day that we keep that inclusion piece in the forefront and make sure that we're including all students together as much as possible to learn from one another. And I think it's really important to talk specifically about some of the benefits of that. And there are many research studies out there that support inclusion. And I listed just a couple of benefits, but the most important takeaway is that an inclusive environment benefits all students. It benefits students with disabilities, and it benefits students without disabilities. So some benefits for some of the special education students in that more inclusive environment, they are able to see peer role models in maybe areas that they struggle in. Maybe they struggle academically. Think of a group project setting, and they have a peer there that maybe is breaking down the concept and maybe helping them through a tough part. And so they're learning from their peer, which is a very powerful thing. Socially, maybe they're learning in their group project how to initiate the conversation. They're seeing modeling on how to take turns. That's really important, that they're with a peer and learning those things. We can teach them as teachers separately, but it's really powerful when they get in there with their peers and they're learning from one another. Behavioral, some kids struggle with behavior. At my specific school, we have a district-wide program for kids that struggle in behavior. And our goal is for those kids to get out in those classrooms and practice those skills that we're teaching them. So one very, like I said, powerful way is for those kids to see appropriate classroom behaviors modeled by their peers. So those are some benefits for the students in that inclusive environment, students with disabilities. Additionally, increased social and friendship opportunities. If students with disabilities are in classrooms away from most of their peers, they are going to have decreased opportunities for friendships and social interactions. And also academic achievement. For example, our students in our co-teaching classes, they are getting exposed to that grade level curriculum. So they're learning that grade level curriculum there with their peers. They have their general education teacher who's that super content expert. They have that special education who's such an expert, that special education teacher who is really skilled in scaffolding that learning and breaking down those concepts. On the other side of the coin, there are students without disabilities. What an amazing opportunity for them to really gain some really meaningful friendships. They are preparing we are in that inclusive environment, preparing them for life, because out in the world, like, we're around people of all different ability levels, and we don't want to shelter kids and keep them around around kids that they feel like are just like them. No, we want to make sure that kids are exposed to all different types of kids, much like we are in life. So it's a great preparation for life. And then I want to definitely make note that academic achievement is also underneath that column. So students without disabilities have been shown in studies to have improved academic outcomes by being in inclusive classrooms. So we've talked a little bit about the benefits for all students, and we've talked about ways in which we try to maximize those inclusive environments during the school day. But much like Dr. Stormont mentioned, there are opportunities to really think outside the box and get creative. And so one way in which we've done that at the school I work at, Gentry Middle School, is through our Kindness Club. So in our Kindness Club, it's an extracurricular activity. And so we meet after school and we have all students of all kinds of different abilities, and we work together to promote kindness and to change the culture of our school. So kids are taught explicit lessons on kindness. We work together on those things and learn from one another. We talk about experiences and how that shapes who we are. And then we think about ways in which we can push out all we've learned school-wide and really impact everyone, even kids that aren't in our particular club. I wanted to make sure I could share a few pictures with you today, because we have some really great ones that kind of communicate the energy of our Kindness Club. So this picture here is of the Children's Grove bracelets. And I don't know if you're familiar with those, but it's an amazing program. The Children's Grove donates bracelets for the kids. And what they're able to do is see a kind act at school, which raises that awareness. Then they're able to pass on a bracelet to that person. So over time, as you see more kind acts occurring, you see more kids aware of this, and they're passing on the bracelets. So you see the bracelets being passed around at school throughout the coming days, and it's just really a lot of fun. So we took these pictures at our club. Some more club activities. We've worked together on some displays around our school. So here's a student standing in front of one of our kindness displays. We have created bookmarks that we've put in random bookmarks at our library so that kids can find inspiring messages and kindness sayings and ideas for kindness, just simple things when they check out and open up their library book. We've also teamed up within our club, and us kids were able to pick who is someone in the school who's a behind the scenes hero, someone that does a lot for our school that maybe isn't recognized. And so the kids got to choose who those people were, team up, go learn some skills in interviewing those individuals. And then we worked together to create these amazing displays. So the one you see here is for our head custodian, and then there's a display for a few secretaries in our office. And the kids had so much fun asking for pictures and about their lives and hobbies and favorite foods and fun facts, and they learned a whole lot along the way. I wanted to share some other ideas we had at Gentry, because you're kind of limited throughout the school day. The school does as much as they can to think about creative ways to get kids involved with one another, but it's those outside the box things that kids get really excited about. One thing that was born out of those ideas is our Jaguar Java. So we happen to have a classroom at my school where students with autism receive specialized instruction throughout the school day. And so they typically take advantage of time and electives with their general education peers, but they do spend time in their classroom with their speech language pathologist, their occupational therapist, and they really are getting those specialized things that the teacher, the school, the parent work together to write into their IEPs. So we try to think of creative ways to get those kids more involved in the school. So we have our classroom with our students with autism working to take orders, deliver coffee, with our very own school coffee shop. We're the Gentry Jaguars, so we named it Jaguar Java. And so those kids get super involved. We have a Jaguars Unite program that general education students are nominated and their parents approve their participation in the program. And they will join those students and help out in the coffee shop. They'll join a PE lesson, maybe a cooking lesson. So you have more interactions and learning opportunities there. Because as we said, you know, these things don't always just happen. You have to just have careful planning and collaboration. So it's involved a lot of collaboration with all sorts of different people in our school. And in order to come up with these ideas, you really have to just, you know, explore all the nooks and crannies of your school and ask everyone. We've had great ideas from our principal, to our PE teacher, to our media specialists, to our custodial staff. I mean, they've all come forward with some great ideas. So it's one of those things you really have to be mindful of and intentional in wanting to make your environment really inclusive and get everyone involved and part of the school. Another way we've done that is just you know, bringing that awareness to the school day. How can we maximize these opportunities? And we noticed that some of our kids, just as a, you know, part of their disability, aren't able to participate in lunch with the crowd. Maybe they have sensory issues, which prevents them from being comfortable, maybe the noise level, the level of activity. And so those kids, we always let kids choose an alternative setting, which is typically kind of nearby, but off to the side where they're a little bit more comfortable, where they can always re-enter, you know, based on their comfort level. But we're creating a lunch club where we can have students that are in the classroom actually go out to the classroom in that space where those other kids are comfortable and interact with them. And so we have activities and treats and things like that. And so that's been a really fun program that we've started at Gentry too. So in talking about, you know, all those opportunities within the school day and outside of the school day, there was just kind of a couple things that I really felt like at the end were worth emphasizing. You know, recognizing that need. You know, what's missing at your school? Do the kids with disabilities, have they taken their rightful place as a really valued part of your school? Are they represented? Are they present? You know, are they able to contribute and have a say in the activities and the goings on of your school? And if the answer is no, then you've got a huge opportunity available to you in order to make that happen. And to see the culture of your school change is a really amazing thing. So not only recognizing that need, but responding with creative solutions. So that means leaning on your support at school, the faculty, the staff, everyone that's involved in the student. Someone may have a perspective that you don't, or an idea, and then you can work together to bring that to fruition. And then focusing on strengths. All students have strengths. I was a reading teacher prior to holding this position, and kids would come in my class and say, oh, I'm not a reader. They'd already decided they weren't a reader. And so we worked on that in class. But very quickly did I realize they may have struggled in reading, but wow, they can do this, they can do that. They had so many amazing talents. And so focusing on strengths for students and making sure that there are opportunities available to them to really showcase those strengths is really, really important. It makes our whole school better. And then maximizing opportunities for your students, families, and your school. So partnering with everybody, that positive communication with families. That's one thing we noticed at Gentry with our club and our other programs is there were so many positive things we had to communicate to our families and our students. And you saw students in the club greeting each other in the hallways that would have never maybe had a chance to meet otherwise. And then just within the school. So I hope I've been able to share a little bit with you today about how exciting it is to create environments that are welcoming to everyone and how it benefits everybody. And thank you for allowing me to speak today. One amazing part of this journey has been finding community partners, and that is through the Children's Grove and through the Columbia Special Education Parent-Teacher Association. And I want to introduce Dr. Aime Van Morlan, who's the president of Septa, the Special Education PTA, because I know she'll have a lot to tell us from a parent perspective. And I'm excited to learn more from her about how her perspective can kind of impact ideas that are floating around in school to increase our inclusion opportunities even more.
Hi, thank you, Sarah. Hi, everyone. It's good to see you tonight via Zoom. I just kind of wanted to start off and give you a parent perspective on some of the topics that Sarah and Dr. Stormont had brought up. And I think one of the ones I wanted to hit on initially was the positive communication. So that's so very important. And I think the communication between the teachers and the parents can help develop a very good relationship. My son had behavior charts, and that way it would give us a little look into his day, and it would tell us how he was doing throughout the day. Initially, they were coming back with some more negative comments on the behaviors, and it kind of got to the point to where he didn't want to show me, because that's something that we would, look at every night and review and kind of comment on how he was doing. It got to the point where he was crumpling them up or trying to hide them. But then we kind of discussed it with the teachers and had a new teacher and a new perspective, and it changed our world. There was positive communication, and there was still honest communication, but it was kind of in how it was phrased. And there was always a positive aspect of the day. So he would come home, he'd show my husband. And then when I got home from work, that was the first thing he wanted to show me was his behavior chart and how well he did and what he could be proud of. So just that little or big change really changed his perspective on school and feedback from the teachers. So I think that's just really important. It changed mine too, because instead of coming home, and having to worry that we would still talk about the behaviors, but, having to worry that he's going to be upset and we're going to have to rehash everything. I knew it was going to be a positive experience and he was going to be able to be proud of how he did. And then if there was still an aspect that we needed to work on, that was okay, because everybody needs to work on something, but the emphasis was on how well he did and less emphasis on what we needed to improve. So that was really important to us. Then kind of as he got older, he's in middle school now, and kind of as he got older, I started to notice that things that really hurt his heart was that he might not have friends, he might not fit in, he might not have a place or someone to sit with at lunch or be included on the playground. And so when he got to Gentry and we met Miss Greenlee and she had the Kindness Club, that is something else that just changed his world. And I know that sounds exaggerated, but it's not. He had a club to go to after school, just like all the other kids. He stayed late and went to the club. He had friends there that, included him and helped him. And it's something that he could look forward to where he had never had that before. And I just like to emphasize, like Sarah said, it's so important on both sides, because for children in general education, as she mentioned, it helps build leadership skills, communication skills, and problem solving. And then for, children with different abilities, it helps them foster friendships. And if they have, I always call Damien, and this is my special term for some of his quirkiness, is kind of what I call it. But, if he's a little more, he can't sit still in his seat, or he's a little more squirmy, then, they could learn why and realize it wasn't him, trying to be disrespectful or, interrupt the class. It was more something that he couldn't help, that he had to do. And I think once children understand things, I think that really helps foster friendships, because if someone's different per se, you kind of worry about it and you might think in your head what's going on. Unfortunately, at a young age, sometimes kids want to know if, what the other child is doing, maybe is that contagious? We've had that come up. But so I think just talking about things and encouraging the children to ask questions can be so helpful, because it can alleviate some of their concerns and clear up some misconceptions that they may have. And then it helps foster those friendships. And then they can also be positive peer role models, as Sarah said, because before middle school, I would go into the class and kind of talk about Damien's Fragile X syndrome and why he did some of the things he did. And the kids would have amazing questions. And I would always tell them that they can be his teacher too, and as long as they are kind, if he's doing something, that maybe not making the best choice, then kindly they could help redirect him so that he could make a better choice. And coming from them, he would really, really listen. I even had some parents email me and say that, that really helped. And then they had a conversation that night about people with different abilities and how to be inclusive. But just kindness, positive communication, it can really change a family's life, because before that, you just feel isolated and alone and like people don't understand, and you just truly worry about your child. But when you're able to build the trust with the schools and the teachers, it's a whole new ball game. It's just amazing. All this kind of pressure and concern, you still have it, but it's different. And you know that there's other people in your court that truly care about your child. And that way, when we're making decisions and that you can trust somebody, then it's typically a more positive conversation. So positive communication is just amazing. So those are kind of my perspective on those things. And I think, like we said, we've kind of talked about positive communication, kindness clubs, inclusion. And I think at this point we were considering opening it up for questions, but I'll let Dr. Stormont or Sarah take over now.
I wondered, Dr. Van Morlan, if you could tell, because you were talking about how isolating it felt. Tell us a little bit about Septa and kind of how that's filled that role for you, because it's been a really important thing in your life, and I'd love everybody to know a little bit more about it.
So Septa has been amazing. Before Septa, we were here in Columbia, and it's I'm just being honest here. It's hard to make friends with other families if they don't understand, what it can be like, with a child with a different ability. There can be meltdowns involved. Sometimes you might know what causes them. There can be some aggressive behavior depending on the situation. So we, for the most part, kind of kept to ourselves and didn't really have a support system at all. Damien, he didn't get invited to the birthday parties and stuff. So it was just really, really lonely. And then we met Septa. Michelle Roboto was the first president of Septa, and she kind of put this all together. And what it is it's basically parents, and we partner with teachers. And now we're also partnering with Children's Grove, which is amazing, to kind of support students, families, and teachers in special education. But now we know, like, if we have get-togethers and stuff, a meltdown, other parents are used to it and they might be able to help. It doesn't feel so alone and isolating. And if it happens, it's okay, because we're all there to support each other. Whereas before, we really didn't, to be honest, really didn't just go out a whole lot, because you never knew what was going to happen in the community. And I know that other families feel that way too, just having a place where we belong and we can look forward to going to, and we realize there could still be some bumps in the road, during the inclusive party or something like that. We know it's going to be okay, and we're not going to be, necessarily judged, and neither is our child. But I was just going to say, I just have to, just what Sarah said about the kindness clubs. I am so excited about the kindness clubs. And Sarah has started them off, and Children's Grove is helping us support them. And our goal is to get them in every school in Columbia Public Schools. We've talked with the superintendent, Peter Stiepelman, and he's supportive of it. Sorry. So that is our goal, to get them into every single school. And we've got a lot of community support right now, especially from Sarah and Children's Grove and Septa. So I'm very, very excited about that. I think it's going to be amazing for our community.
Agreed. So if anyone is watching and you don't have a kindness club at your school, or your child or your grandchild's school, please contact your school and let them know that that is of interest to you. I did want to kind of piggyback on Dr. Van Morlan's comments about Septa. I want to tell you what an important organization it is to, as a teacher, because you have that setting in which to hear from parents and about their experiences. And, it's outside of that IEP meeting, it's outside of that formal setting. And so it's been really important in terms of understanding members of my community that are important for me to partner with. So I appreciate that. very, very much.
Thanks,
So-
Sarah. Oh, hi, Amy. Yeah,
Hi.
thank you. That was so lovely. And I just wanted to add just one thing, and that is, as from a parent lens and really spending a lot of time with different parents from different perspectives, and then also spending a lot of time with teachers. And I think one thing I've learned that cuts across both groups is people are afraid that other people will think that they're not trying. and, and and if we switch that and just think of how wonderful it would be if everybody just kind of assumed everybody was trying and everybody was doing the best they could, and took away that lens of just judgment. It's judgment, judging teachers, judging parents. It would be very, very different, and parents can't do everything, and teachers can't do everything. And most often nobody's asking for that. It's just for to entertain an option. And when you understand that, and you're more able to really listen and empathize, once you can empathize with someone about kind of their experience as a parent, it's a lot easier to understand their priorities and why it's important, their struggles, their past, their fears for the future. And it's just so much better. Everything's better. And Amy, what I learned from Amy and Sarah is they just have such a mutual respect, and they're in a fan club of each other's, and it's just so lovely. And it really is infectious, and it just makes me want to spend time around them and just sharing everything. So I'm glad everybody has gotten to listen to them. And I also want to just open it up for questions, either for Sarah or for Amy or for me, but I think they have the meatiest things in this presentation. And if you would like for us to turn off the recording for the question and answer, that's fine. If you can just maybe put it in the chat, then we'd be happy to. Otherwise, you'll just be on audio, or so your name will appear if you ask a question. It'll come up in the box. So just let us know. We're open. Judy?
May I ask a question?
Sure.
I was wondering how often the kindness clubs meet.
Well, the great thing about starting a club is if you are the club sponsor, you really get to set that up and make sure that it meets the needs of your school and your students and your own schedule. So when I was a teacher, my club was able to meet once every week or once every 2 weeks. Then I took on more of the instructional mentor department chair position, and my club met every 2 to 3 weeks, just because I had increased meetings after school. But it's funny because the club started, and we had helpers and everything through school to help us along, get the club going as we were getting more members, and some kids had some needs that we needed more adult help. And then more teachers started volunteering, and then people just kind of show up as the club was starting and stayed throughout the club. And each time I was like, this is just so neat. People are just kind of drawn to our club. So it just kind of snowballs into this really cool thing. But yeah, it really depends on the club sponsor. You can meet as often or as infrequently as works for you. I would just encourage anybody who is interested or is going to advocate for that at their school, just to make sure that's known, that it's so important to have it, that the frequency I think is less important than, making sure I can only have a club if I'm available once a week. But yeah, it's flexible. That's a good question. The kids would stop by when it was every 2 to 3 weeks, the kids had trouble remembering which week it was. And there was just a flow of kids. And all the time, every morning, it's tonight Kindness Club. I need to sign up for the activity bus so I have a ride home. So it was cute. They were keeping an eye on it.
I would say too, if you're encouraged by this and you want to have a kindness club at your school, make sure to let the teachers and stuff know. And Sarah, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think teachers now are kind of planning for their clubs for next year. And so we're trying to get in contact with the right people to make sure we can get a club set up. And with our support from Children's Grove, you know, we want to have like a kind of a welcome box ready for the teacher where we're able to give them some ideas about stuff that they can do, you know, during the kindness club, some things to make it easy for them so they can just have fun but not have to kind of reinvent the wheel. Maybe some funds to help them with some of the items they might need to do the craft or to make the kindness bookmarks. So we're trying to get it streamlined so it can be as easy for teachers as possible so they can go have fun and help foster those friendships. But we really want to try to get the word out there so that we can get them in all the schools. So please help with that. Anybody that is willing to help and has any good ideas about that, please let us know, because we feel strongly and know it needs to be in every school. We just need to get the word out.
And I see in the chat, Lily has asked if there are kindness clubs at any other schools. Dr. Van Morlan, I'll let you jump in because you have some great knowledge of one elementary and their quilts. I'll let you tell a little bit about that.
Yeah. Well, COVID kind of put a damper on everything, if I'm going to be honest, because we were so excited and we had all this momentum going, and we had talked to most of the elementary schools and middle schools. And eventually we want to work on the high schools too, but I know some of the high schools have some of their own programs. And then COVID kind of hit, and with online learning and stuff, everything kind of slowed down. So right now we're trying to ramp back up. So I know Beulah Ralph also has a very successful kindness club that is wonderful, and the teachers and the parents love that club. We're trying to get one at John Warner, and that's where my son goes. So we have some interest in that, and we're going to push for that. And now, like I said, now I've sent out some emails to contact different contacts in the schools, and that's where we're at right now. So we're trying to get them in all the schools, and I think it's Gentry, Beulah Ralph, and then some of the schools have a similar club, but it's not exactly the kindness club, but it's still about kind of some positive relationships and fostering those things when I've talked to some teachers. But that's what we're doing right now, is trying to ramp up awareness again so we can get these in as many schools as possible for the next academic year. And we work hard at it, Sarah and I, and Children's Grove.
If I could add something, I think you guys have been, I mean, this is so fantastic, all of what you guys do. And the nice part about this is being taped so that we could put it on the Children's Grove website. So if those of you who are on tonight are thinking, wow, I wish other people could hear this, there's ample opportunity for other people to hear this. And so let's please spread the word, because this is just what you guys have shared with us has been nothing short of fantastic. So I want to thank you very much.
Oh, thank you, Kim. We do have a question in the chat. It's a great one. How often does Septa meet, and where does Septa meet? And I'll let you answer, Dr. Van Morlan. And your website is awesome. I know that they'll find everything they need, but maybe you can point us all in the right direction.
Yes, so Septa meets approximately once a month. And before this point, we've been doing Zoom visits because of the pandemic and stuff. So we're still doing Zoom visits right now. Our last meeting we were going to have last Friday at one of the nature playgrounds, because we were trying to do like a social gathering where we could get the kids to kind of start, socializing again in a safe manner, but it rained. So it does meet once a month. And then I just wanted to point out too that Septa, we've also been doing some informational talks recently. We've had one on the nature playgrounds. We've had one on dyslexia. We've had one on children going into puberty and more aggressive behaviors. And so, like we said, I'm the president, so I'm always willing to take ideas about topics that parents want to hear more about. And then I can kind of look in the community and see if I can find someone to talk about it. But we really want to increase Septa participation also with parents and teachers. This year we're hoping having to develop a teacher appreciation committee where we can appreciate more of our teachers in special education. We have a Septa spotlight where we want to spotlight, as somebody in the school that's made a positive impact in anyone, in children in general and special education. And then we also have some mini grants that we want to be able to provide for teachers. So yes, come one, come all, help us support our teachers, students, and families, and get excited. I know Sarah and I and some other people that we meet with, and Melissa, when we start talking about kindness and positive things, it just really puts you in a good mood. And it's a meeting that you want to have and you look forward to, and you just come out of it kind of recharged. So tell everyone.
Sarah, Amy, I know that we also have the tip sheets, and I wasn't sure if you wanted to pull those up, Sarah, or if we just want to go to put on the slide with our emails, and I need to put Amy's email too, or if we just connect it to Children's Grove. So that was about 45 different choices.
I just wanted to say one thing real quick about, I know on the tip sheet, one of your top tips, Sarah, was that all families need support.
Mhm.
And I just can't emphasize that enough. Like I said, that being alone feeling, it's hard to be energized and want to get things to happen. But when you feel like you're supported and you have a community, wonderful, amazing things can happen. You work with teachers, you work with people in the community, such as Children's Grove. We get to meet Dr. Stormont, and then we can put all our brains together and do amazing things for the kids. So I just think that support's very important. And don't hesitate to reach out to somebody. If you're at the park and looks like someone's having a meltdown, you don't know that person, it's okay just to say hi, or it looks like maybe you're having a rough day, just kind of something to reach out to let people know they're not alone, because that can really change someone's day and their perspective and their whole outlook on that day. Just if a person says a kind word to someone, it's amazing what words of kindness can do and how they can change people's days and outlooks.
I love those reminders that it doesn't have to be a big elaborate act. It can be something small that's just really a big deal. So thank you for that. Is that Como Septa? Is that the website? We had a question.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, it's www.comosepta.com. Yeah. And then if you need to get in contact with me, I'm at Aime Van Morlan at yahoo.com. But I check the Septa website, the email all the time. And that's, but you can always email me too.
Yeah, maybe we can share our tip sheets then through the Children's Grove with our link, and then maybe displaying our emails at this time would be helpful.
You bet.
Dr. Stormont, do you find that in teaching, future special education teachers, that there's a lot of interest in this area?
Oh, absolutely. I think the first thing that surprises me, not as much with special educators as with general educators, is that they're a little bit afraid of families. And I don't, I need to know that, because that's where we need to start. But I always have to remind myself of that, and because in my opinion, most families are pretty easy to sell. I haven't ever met a family that I wasn't very comfortable talking to. I mean, never. And so that amazes me that, people have that fear. And the reason, in my opinion, one of the things is we don't really prepare them to talk about this. And now we're doing a better job, but through student teaching and different things, they don't really have a lot of experiences with families. And then when they do, maybe it's through the lens of that negative communication. And if they just get in the flow of establishing relationships within the first month, you write down your students, you divide it up, and you just take 4 a day and you just reach out to those families within that context, it's not scary at all. And so those are just some things that probably aren't that surprising to people, but I have to remind myself that it's not, we don't need to get into fancy research-based strategies. We need to start here with fear. So
I think that kind of goes back to sometimes the fear of the unknown. When people see something that's a little bit different and they don't understand it, sometimes, you never know what's going on in their head. But if we can teach people just to kindly ask questions and inquire about things, we can break some down of those barriers, I think.
oh yeah, for sure. I was looking for the tip sheet, and then I found the tip sheet, and then we said the other thing. So then I was going back. So can you see it now? I don't have it on slideshow, and I didn't have Amy's on here. But if you want to give it to me, Aime Van, is it your last name?
Yeah, it's just A Van Morlan. And then at yahoo.com. Perfect. And then I always have to, one more time, just think of the change you can make in a child's life. Like I said, my son Damien went from just kind of being melancholy and thinking he didn't have any friends to this kindness club where he had something forward to look to after school. And he'd come home and tell me about the friends that he made and the cool things that he got to do. So even little things like this, although I know it's a lot of work for teachers, but it can make the difference in a child's life. And then that makes a difference in the whole family's life, because then we know he's happy and he's healthy and he's developing those relationships, and it takes a lot of stress and concern off of our shoulders too. And then we can open up all those thoughts for positive things and more kindness clubs and more ways we can make a difference. So
That's so true. And I'm sorry, I had to share this tip sheet because Sarah did such a nice job. And it's always been my experience, people won't necessarily open links, but if you show them what's on the other side of that link, then they'll go and open it. So it's just, well, we have time. It's just a really nice little tip sheet to just share some of the highlights. And there too. So
And we have a chat question is asking if we can add the Septa website to that contact page and re-show that. And I'm going to add it to the chat here too for everyone. It was comosepta.com, correct? Great.
yes.
Thanks, Judy.
We're thinking about we had an inclusion walk before COVID. We didn't have that last year, but it's called In It Together, a walk for inclusion, where it just builds awareness about all children. And along the walk, we might have different stations about what it might be like to have, an issue with sound. And so sound might be 10 times louder to someone else. And so you realize when they react a certain way, it's because that sound is so loud. And we had kind of like a carnival and the fire trucks there. So we're going to try to put that together again if we can get it done. But it's really fun, and it just kind of brings awareness to all abilities. And it's a safe space to ask questions and interact with each other and just learn to build those friendships. So watch out for that. We'll see.
I'm missing something in the Como Septa here. Is it yahoo.com? Where does the at go?
Does this get you there?
Which one?
Can you see it in the chat? I think it's just www.comosepta.com.
Okay. Looks like it.
Great. And it looks like our time's drawing to a close. Does anybody else have any questions? Thank you, Linda. Linda says, well done, ladies.
I second that emotion.
Thanks. I'm falling apart here at the end. I have too many things open.
Well, it's been wonderful to work with you too, and to think about all these things and reflect on everything. So thank you for your wonderful collaboration.
Yes,
And on
thank you.
behalf of the Children's Grove, I want to thank you all very much and encourage people to go to our website. It's just it's www.childrensgrove.org. And we have a lot of resources on there. This will certainly be one of the resources, but I encourage you to look at some of the events we have going on the rest of the week. And there's some fantastic additional programs. And so this is a great way to kick off our week. And I thank you very sincerely.
And this is Annual Acts of Kindness Week. So this is just right in line with the week and all the other activities Children's Grove has planned. So I hope that everyone will get creative on something they can do in their own lives to celebrate this. Celebrate kindness this week.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Take care, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.